You put down a fresh bowl of water, clean, cold, right next to their food, and your cat walks right past it, jumps onto the counter, and starts pouring at the faucet handle. They stare at you. They wait. And the moment you turn that tap on, they drink like it's the first water they've seen in days. It doesn't look like a big behavior. But once you understand what's actually driving it, it changes how you see your cat entirely. To understand why cats do this, you have to go back to where cats actually come from. Domestic cats are descended from desert-dwelling wildcats. The African wildcat, Felis libica, lived in arid environments where water was scarce, unpredictable, and often dangerous. Stagnant water in the wild isn't safe water. It collects bacteria, it carries parasites, it sits still, and it gets contaminated. So over thousands of years, cats evolved a very specific instinct. Moving water is safer than still water. Moving water is oxygenated, fresher, less likely to harbor the things that could make you sick. Still water, from an evolutionary standpoint, is a risk. Your cat doesn't know it's looking at a ceramic bowl in this morning. Their nervous system is still running ancient survival code. And that code says, still water is suspicious. Moving water is safe. The tap isn't a preference. It's an instinct responding to a signal it was built to recognize. There's another layer here that most people don't think about. Cats have something called whisker fatigue, and it plays a bigger role in their behavior around water and food bowls than you might expect. A cat's whiskers are extraordinarily sensitive sensory tools. They're packed with nerve endings that detect even tiny changes in air pressure and movement. When those whiskers brush against the sides of a deep or narrow bowl repeatedly, it overstimulates them. It becomes uncomfortable, sometimes even mildly stressful. A running tap eliminates that problem entirely. There are no bowl walls to navigate. The water comes to them in a wide open space. Their whiskers stay relaxed. Drinking becomes effortless. That's not pickiness. That's a sensory system doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting the cat from unnecessary discomfort. And then there's the visual dimension. Cats have difficulty seeing still, clear water clearly. Their eyes are built for detecting motion. A flat, transparent surface in a bowl can be genuinely hard for them to locate. They might literally not see the water surface until their nose touches it. But flowing water catches light, creates movement, and is instantly visible even from across the room. The tap glints. It moves. Their eyes lock onto it immediately. The bowl just sits there, invisible. Here's something worth sitting with. In the wild, cats don't eat and drink in the same place. Prey animals attract predators. So a hunting cat that catches something doesn't eat it right where it was caught. It moves away. And it certainly doesn't position its water source near where food is present, because food attracts competition, scavengers, and danger. Most cat owners put the food bowl and water bowl next to each other. It feels logical to us. But to a cat's ancient wiring, it's a mildly conflicting signal. The area near food is a place for alertness. Water is where you let your guard down a little, where you're briefly vulnerable. The tap, on the other hand, is separate. It's in a different room sometimes. It's elevated. It feels more like a place a cat would choose, on its own terms. That location matters. A cat standing on a counter, drinking from a running tap, is choosing a spot that feels spatially correct to them, removed from the feeding area, elevated for visibility, open in all directions. It's not random. It reflects a positioning instinct that's been running in the background the whole time. But here's where it gets interesting. Because a lot of cats don't just drink from the tap. They wait for their owner to turn it on. They make eye contact. They pour at the handle until someone comes. And then they drink while their person is standing there. That's not just about water quality or whisker sensitivity. That behavior is about something else entirely. Cats are not pack animals, but they do form attachment structures. And within a home, they often develop what researchers describe as a secure base relationship with their primary human. Similar, in some ways, to what you see in parent-child attachment dynamics. They're drawn to their person not just for resources, but for presence, for safety, for the feeling that the environment is regulated. Waiting for you to turn on the tap might be your cat asking you to participate in something with them. Not demanding, not manipulating, inviting. Think about it from their perspective. You're a large, warm, familiar presence. When you're near, the environment feels safer. And drinking, a moment of vulnerability, becomes easier when you're there. Some cats won't drink from a tap if you're not watching. Not because they need you to operate the faucet, because they want you there. That's not entitlement. That's attachment. There's one more dimension worth naming. Control. Cats are creatures who manage their environment very carefully. They like knowing where things are, how things work, and what happens when they do certain things. This is partly territorial wiring. Knowing your environment is how you survive in it, and partly about regulating their own internal state. A bowl of water has no interactivity. It just sits there. But a tap responds. A cat learns that pouring at the handle or sitting in a specific spot produces a particular outcome. That's not just convenient. That's a cat who has figured out how to influence their world. And for an animal whose entire nervous system is tuned toward control of their environment, that feeling matters. The tap ritual becomes a small but meaningful point of agency. I do this. This happens. That's mine. You'll notice cats who prefer the tap often have very specific rituals around it. They wait at a particular spot. They want a particular flow strength. They might drink from one side only. These aren't quirks. They're self-organized routines. The same instinct that drives a cat to follow the same patrol path through the house every morning, to sit in the same window at the same time each afternoon. Routine equals safety. Familiar ritual equals a regulated nervous system. The tap, in its own small way, is part of how your cat keeps their internal world stable. When you put all of this together, what you're really seeing in a cat who prefers the tap is a creature whose instincts are fully intact and working exactly as they were designed to. The caution around still water, the sensitivity to sensory discomfort, the preference for open, elevated, separated drinking spaces, the attachment to a familiar human presence during a vulnerable moment, the satisfaction of a ritual they've made their own. None of it is stubbornness. None of it is being difficult. It's a nervous system doing its job, filtering the environment through millions of years of survival logic, and making decisions accordingly. Your cat isn't rejecting the bowl you gave them. They're following something older than domestication, something that kept their ancestors alive, long before there were houses or humans or ceramic bowls. And in some ways, the tap behavior is one of the clearer windows into how your cat actually experiences their world. Because unlike a lot of cat behaviors that can be subtle or ambiguous, this one is direct. They know what they want. They know how to communicate it. And they know who to communicate it to. That's not nothing. That's a relationship. So the next time your cat sits by the faucet and waits, tail gently moving, eyes on you, you're watching several things happen at once. You're watching an animal whose ancestors survived deserts by reading water sources carefully. You're watching a sensory system that still responds to ancient signals, even in a modern kitchen. You're watching an attachment pattern, the quiet preference for doing something vulnerable near someone safe. And you're watching a small act of trust, I know you'll turn it on. I know you'll be here. I know how this goes. Once you understand the instinct, the behavior feels different. It was never random. It was never difficult. It was always just your cat, being exactly who they are. If this helps you understand your cat a little better, there's a lot more to explore. Every small behavior has a story underneath it. And the more you understand those stories, the more you see. Your cat has been communicating with you all along,